Searing new remarks from President Obama's former Attorney General. Eric Holder laying out why he thinks President Trump could face prosecution after leaving office in a wide-ranging new interview.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. We already have an indictment in the Southern District of New York where Michael
relative to the payoff.
Relative to the payoffs, that Michael Cohen is already in jail with regard to his role there. Individual one is the president, and it would seem to me that the next Attorney General, the next president, is going to have to make a determination.
All right, let's bring in Bishop Garrison, co-founder of the Joseph Rainey Center for Public Policy, and Republican strategist Brian Darling, founder and president of Liberty Government Affairs. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
All right, Brian, as a Republican, how alarming is that statement coming from a former U.S. Attorney General?
I don't find it alarming at all. It's kind of expected. I don't think that President Trump will get prosecuted after the fact, considering when you look, there is a good faith debate on whether President Trump has any exposure on the campaign finance issue. He used personal money to take care of a personal matter. So there is legal debate as to whether whether Michael Cohen should have pleaded guilty and whether President Trump has any exposure at all.
Well, Holder also talked about the potential impact on the country of prosecuting a former president. Let's listen to that.
Cost to the nation by putting on trial a former president, and that ought to at least be a part of the calculus that goes into the determination that has to be made by the next Attorney General. I think we should understand what a trial of a former president would do to the nation.
All right, Bishop, how do you interpret that?
Well, I think what AG Holder is actually saying is there is a process that needs to be put forward, and as a part of that process, we need to be very thoughtful in the way that we're going to go through it. He's correct. Putting a former president on trial openly for something like this is going to have an effect on the country. It's going to have an effect on the world, to be quite frank. As a world leader, we have a lot of relationships, a lot of alliances that rely on our stability, both domestically and internationally. So to go through this is not a small task. That's what I think AG Holder is actually referring to here. It is a big decision to be made, but there is a process for Congress, a legislative process. There's a process in terms of the law that they must follow in order to determine whether or not they should move forward, and they must follow that process.
Would you be okay with that, Bishop?
With what part of it? With them following the process and the actual law? Absolutely. Would I be okay with a former president? If it's the right thing to do, if Congress determines that is what needs to happen in order to see that justice is served, absolutely. I believe that there are a lot of open questions here in the conduct of the president's campaign and the conduct of the president's personal organization, is a private organization, in the context of the president's administration. There are many questions that have some legal questions that need to be answered here, and I think we need to follow this process through.
Brian, we also need to avoid the criminalization of politics and the situation where when one party comes into power, they lock up their opponents. We saw the Republicans touch on this a little bit with the lock 'em up chant with Hillary Clinton. I don't think it would be a good idea for Democrats to go down the road of actually trying to lock up their opponents and go after people after they're out of office.
Not at all. And that's not what I'm saying. The Republicans also spent years and millions of dollars on Benghazi that led absolutely nowhere. I think that we need to have a thoughtful discussion about what an impeachment process looks like, and if there's smoke, there's fire, and apparently there is some evidence and unanswered questions here that need to be engaged.
Brian, what do you think when you hear Holder say that he thinks the potential cost of putting a former president on trial should be part of the next Attorney General's calculus?
I think that basically when you look at the four corners of what Eric Holder said, is he was preaching moderation and counseling Democrats to maybe take a step back and not go for impeachment, not go over the line on issues like immigration and health care. I think what he was saying to Democrats is, the Obama agenda probably couldn't stand right now the way Democrats are talking. Many Democrats are attacking the Obama record, and I think that's not for me to tell Democrats what to do. I think the democratic socialism message is very helpful for Republicans, but I think what he is saying is they need to maybe dial it back a little bit and not be so far to the left.
Well, shifting to that left in policy, Bishop Holder also slammed the 2020 Democrats who were backing decriminalizing illegal border crossings, and that includes Senator Elizabeth Warren as well as Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Let's watch that.
I don't think that's right. I mean, the law that is on the books has been there for about 100 years now. It might send the wrong signal, but it would certainly take a tool away from the Justice Department that it might want to use in an individual case and for some reason. I know there's some trafficking, human trafficking component there. There might be some other reason why you want to prosecute. You want to prosecute somebody. But it is up to, I think, the Justice Department to use its discretion in an appropriate way. And I don't think this administration's Justice Department is doing that.
Do you think his opinion is significant at this point?
You have an AG that wants the law upheld and wants nefarious actors to be captured. He's talking about human trafficking. He's referring, I'm sure, at some point to terrorism, narco wars that we see in other countries that a lot of those governments are fighting their best to deal with. And he wants to make sure that law enforcement officials have all the tools necessary at their disposal in order to properly do their jobs. I think if you spoke directly with AG Holder, he would agree that he doesn't want these individuals that are fleeing desperate, violent situations, like refugees, like asylum seekers, like a lot of these migrants that are dealing with the effects of climate change in their areas, to be treated as criminals. He wants those individuals to have an opportunity to find a safe haven within the borders of the United States, while at the same time addressing what true criminal activity looks like, what those nefarious actors are doing elsewhere. And I'm sure Brian is going to try to say that somehow the Obama administration has done something inappropriately in terms of their actions in the past in order to deal with this. I'm not surprised that we would have the Republican side believing that the AG is taking a hit at what Democratic candidates are doing. But ultimately, he's saying that he wants the law followed, and I'm not surprised by that at all.
Well, Brian's going to have to answer the next time around. We've run out of time. Brian Darling, Bishop Garrison, thank you so much for spending some time today. Thank you.
Thank you.